You ever have one of those moments when your whole life changes with a single phone call? Like, you're just sitting there, halfway across the world, enjoying some peace for once. And then, bam, somebody rips out the heart of everything you thought was safe? That's how it started for me. I was in a hummus cafe in Tel Aviv, watching the sky bleed orange and gold over the Mediterranean, when my phone buzzed and my neighbor Phoenix came on the line, her voice trembling, and she said, "They're draining your pond, Zeph. Brenda's out there right now with industrial pumps. She's live streaming the whole thing. You need to get home. Immediately. Now." At first, I thought Phoenix was probably just caught up in the usual HOA drama. Everyone in Willowbrook Estates knows how our president Brenda Thornfield rolls, right? Always on a crusade for community standards, always finding new ways to ruin someone's day. But then Phoenix flipped her camera, and I saw it for myself. Men in neon vests working under bright LED lights, the roar of pumps drowning out any hope I had that this was just another exaggeration. My grandfather's koi pond, the centerpiece of our family home for nearly 80 years, was vanishing minute by minute, and Brenda was there in her gold-embroidered HOA jacket, directing the operation with this sick little smile, barking orders like some suburban Napoleon, telling her crew to get every last drop out before sunrise. That I'm telling you, it wasn't just property damage. It felt personal, like she was erasing my family's story right in front of the whole neighborhood. That pond wasn't just some backyard decoration. It was legacy. My granddad built it by hand after World War II, stocking it with two koi named Harmony and Peace, stones brought home from every state he crossed. As a kid, I sat with him there, learning about engineering, about building things that last. We scattered his ashes over that water, and when he passed, I swore to keep it alive, not just for him, but because that place shaped me, shaped everything I became. Brenda knew what she was doing. After tanking her own finances in a scandal that made the business papers, she parachuted into our quiet little street, ran for HOA board, and started a campaign to modernize everything that didn't fit her version of perfection. She'd sent me 17 written warnings in a year: noise, environmental hazard, you name it, each one more threatening than the last. And now here she was, killing decades of care in one night under the guise of emergency remediation. Phoenix's camera caught it all, and her commentary, raw, angry, heartbroken, drew hundreds of people online, everyone horrified, but not one person could actually stop it. When I finally made it home, the smell of rotting fish and chemical mud smacked me right in the face, and I just stood there, looking at what was left of my grandfather's masterpiece. The koi were dead or dying, the water a toxic puddle, and Brenda? She stood on the edge of it all, smiled at Phoenix's camera, and announced, "Emergency health remediation completed. The community is safer now." Then she left. Just left it all behind. But here's where the story turns, because the next call I got wasn't from a friend. It was from my business partner Atlas, panicked because the environmental compliance team had flagged my property. Turns out, that pond wasn't just a sentimental relic. It was a cornerstone of a multi-million-dollar sustainable bridge project, proof of long-term ecosystem management, something we'd worked years to perfect. And now, because of Brenda's stunt, everything was at risk. My career, my future, my reputation. Let me tell you, there's nothing quite like realizing your childhood home is ground zero for a corporate disaster, and the key evidence for your professional life is lying dead in the mud. I marched straight into the HOA office, Phoenix at my side, and Brenda just leaned back in her chair, hit me with that fake concerned voice, and told me I should be grateful she'd taken care of the mosquito hazard. When I pressed her on the legality, she slapped down some nonsense ordinance, and then, get this, handed me a bill for $50,000 for emergency waste removal and soil remediation. She turned my loss into her profit, itemized down to the last penny. And when I threatened to sue, she just grinned and said I'd have to go through internal HOA mediation, a process designed to drag out for months, letting her scheme roll right along. But she overplayed her hand. Phoenix kept digging, live streams, photos, interviews, turning my loss into a rallying cry. Her viral videos brought attention, and then the geological survey I commissioned cleared my pond completely. No contamination, no hazards, just a healthy ecosystem that had been brutally destroyed. When I showed that to the HOA board, Brenda just pivoted, accused me of running an unlicensed commercial aquaculture operation, threatened new fines and inspections, and doubled down on legal intimidation. Twist is, Brenda wasn't acting alone. Phoenix uncovered that Brenda's supposed ex-husband Richard wasn't out of the picture. He was right there with her, meeting contractors, carrying blueprints, prepping for some community improvement project. Through a camera lens, we caught Brenda and Richard surveying the pond site, blueprint in hand. But those weren't bridge plans. They were pipeline schematics. Turns out, they'd filed permits for a pedestrian bridge that conveniently covered for a waste pipeline running from a nearby commercial site. The pond wasn't just an eyesore to them. It was in the way of a much bigger, dirtier plan. Things escalated fast. An EPA inquiry landed on my doorstep. Meridian Industries, a chemical company with a history of contamination, was named. Atlas called, his voice strained, saying the investors were spooked by the scandal. Brenda had forged my signature on official documents to greenlight the project, and forensic experts confirmed it. Full-on document fraud, federal crimes, not just HOA bullying. When we dug deeper, Phoenix and I found that 15 years ago, Meridian Industries had already poisoned our neighborhood. People had died, records destroyed, and Brenda, then a hotshot lawyer, helped sweep it all under the rug. Richard, far from being her ex, was a corporate plant. Their so-called marriage and divorce, all a front for a years-long scheme. And then, in the middle of this chaos, nature decided to play its hand. A hurricane hit. With my grandfather's pond gone, stormwater flooded a dozen homes that had never seen water damage before. Suddenly, neighbors realized that the health hazard Brenda destroyed was actually protecting all of us. Mrs. Henderson, who'd lived down the street for 40 years, called me in tears, apologizing for doubting me, and telling me that Brenda had been plotting against the old guard since the day she moved in, specifically targeting families tied to the land. Phoenix's investigation went public, gathering thousands of signatures, forcing the mayor to hold an emergency town hall, and exposing Brenda's connection to Meridian on every news channel. Under pressure, Brenda cracked, left behind a USB drive full of records, bribes, damning emails, and a tearful video confession. Federal investigators swept in, and when the dust settled, Brenda was indicted for fraud, Richard for racketeering, and Meridian Industries for environmental crimes across multiple states. My grandfather's pond, as it turns out, was more than a symbol. It was evidence of decades of hidden contamination, and its destruction nearly allowed Meridian to cover it up forever. But justice, slow and stubborn as it is, finally caught up. The EPA contracted me and my team to design new environmental monitoring systems, not just for our neighborhood, but across a dozen states. Atlas called with the best news of my life. Our bridge project was back, the investors were on board, and the Justice Department wanted to use my restored pond as a case study for environmental recovery. Brenda, as part of her plea deal, ended up doing community service, helping neighborhoods recover from the very kind of damage she'd once enabled. And Phoenix? She made a documentary about the whole thing, turning our local nightmare into a national conversation about ordinary people fighting back against power.so. Here I am, sitting by a newly restored pond, koi darting in clear water, sun glittering off the surface. The weight of my grandfather's legacy settled on my shoulders in the best way possible, knowing that the fight was worth it. If you've ever been up against a system that wants to steamroll you, if you believe that ordinary folks can force real change just by refusing to stay silent, then I hope you'll speak up. Drop your thoughts below. Tell me, who really owns our communities? Those with the power to write the rules, or those willing to fight for what's right? Let's talk about it.